Good evening, everybody, and thank you for coming to the Jubilee Veterans Evening. First of all, I'd like you to do, if you wouldn't mind, stand up and lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Again, it's a great event that we have going on here. I hope everybody had their chili. Now, I managed to eat my chili without getting anything on me, which my girlfriend's very happy. But just a couple things I wanted to say. Welcome. And again, what a wonderful event. I've never been to this event, and I'm really like to, that the club promotes and supports veterans in every aspect that we can. Just a couple things that I wanted to say, and some things that that I picked up. One quote by G.K. Chesterton. Generally, it says, a true soldier fights not only because he hates what's in front of him, but because he loves what's behind him. That was kind of profound. And just a little prayer for everybody. Dear Lord, today we honor our veterans, worthy men and women who gave their best when they were called upon to serve and protect their country. We pray that you will bless them for their unselfish service and continual struggle to preserve our freedoms, our safety, in our country and our heritage for all of us. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, John. At this time, I would like to read the names of all the veterans that are in the room tonight. And as I call your name, if you please stand and remain standing until I've named all of the veterans present. And please let me know if I miss anyone. Oh, we have some more. And more. What a popular event. They just keep coming in. Bob O'Malley. He just got here, I think. There he is, okay. Rick Laws. Jim Trask. Brian McMahon. He's a Navy man. A little bit late. No, there he is. He's up there, okay. Jim O'Brien, Army. Dean Killeen, Army. Ray Bottaro, United States Army. Joe Collins, United States Marine Corps. Paul Coughlin, United States Air Force. Paul would be Mike's father, by the way. Can I tell him that? Oh, he heard you already. Ray Franzazzini. Okay. I'm not the first one that's done that, am I? Okay. Bill Crocker. Okay. Gary Beckett, United States Navy, Vietnam vet. George Martell. He's got here Charlie Golf. Oh, that's Coast Guard. NAV speak, right? Chris Frady's, Coast Guard. Dick Kelly, United States Army. Ray Mount, United States Army. Andy McGowan, United States Navy. Jeff Glue, United States Marine Corps, Vietnam veteran. There he is. Dave Altman, United States Navy. For those of you who don't know me, that was me. Okay. Bill King, Air Force. How can you miss him? Bob Norris, United States Navy. better known as Professor Norris. Jack Stanley, United States Merchant Marine Academy and Navy. He's a double dipper. Walt. Got it. Thanks. John Fellows, United States Marine Corps. Rick Cassia, United States Army. Just got out of a war zone. He's got still got. Let's see. Thor Bertley. Not even close, is it? I'm having trouble reading some of these. Lester Libby, United States Army. Corey Paulette, United States, well, he's with the Veterans Council. He's also Navy or Marine? Okay. Chuck Clark, Veterans Council, Vietnam vet. Paul Coughlin. Oh, yeah. Did I already do you, Paul? Well, you're here twice. All right. Now, where's Jack? Jack Rodwell. United States Navy. Just back from an honor flight. Talk about it when you get a chance to talk to him. It was really quite an event. Dick Cullinan, United States Air Force. Steve Ellis, United States Army. And Dean Mac Ferreira. All right. Well, anyway, let's have a nice round of applause for these men and women who proudly served our great country. And thank you for coming and helping us celebrate. This is one event that I think needs to continue so that we can pass on our experiences to our younger people. Because I really think that, I'm sorry? Oh, okay. All right. This time, we have a message from Congressman Seth Moulton, and he'll be on the screen. Wait a minute. That's not Seth. That'd be me. How did that get up there? Oh, man. Well, anyway, there's a little story behind that if you have a few minutes. That was an honor detail on the Mekong Delta in July of 1967. And that's four-star General Westmoreland. And his title was Commander Military Assistance Command Vietnam. It's shortened COMMAC-V. He was on board for a strategic meeting with several generals and admirals and full colonels. And as he came aboard, he stared at my name tag, and he called me by my name. He says, Mr. Altman, is there a Bill Singletary aboard? And I said, well, yes, sir. I said, no, we have a Bill Singletary. And I'm thinking to myself, he's a second-class petty officer. What's a four-star general want with, Bill Singletary? So I said, yes, sir. He's a second-class petty officer, and he's in the ship's laundry. He runs the ship's laundry. And he said, take me to him. So I said, oh, yes, sir. So I'm looking over my shoulder at the captain, and he's like, WTF, I mean, come on. And so the two of us leave, and we're walking, and I happen to be the engineer aboard ship, so I knew every nook and cranny, which was my job. So I got him down to the mess decks, and everybody's screaming attention on deck. And so he goes over, and he sees Bill Singletary, and he goes, Billy boy. And the two of them hug. And I'm looking at this, and I'm saying, what am I going to do now? And he looks at me, and he says, Mr. Altman, would you get us some coffee, please? So I went, I didn't know I was a steward. So I went and got the coffee, and I'm standing there, and he says, well, you can leave now. So I took about 4 steps and I turned around and I said, he says, oh yeah, tell those guys up top side. He says, I'll be up in half an hour or so. I'm meeting up with my old grade school buddy. And all I could think of today was in the Vietnam series that Ken Burns did. Throughout that series, I found that William C. Westmoreland got thrown under the bus a few times. And all I can say about this guy is he's got 500,000 men under him, and he's got 20 or 30 senior officers waiting, and he wants to go talk to his high school buddy. So it says quite a bit about the guy. You know, he never forgot where he came from. So that's how that happened. All right, can we put Seth on now? Seth Moulton is our congressman for this area, and he's graciously
Veterans Day is a time to pause and reflect, not just on the sacrifices that our heroes made in battle, but on the value. Hi everyone, I'm sorry I couldn't be with you in person today, but I wanted to take a moment to thank the Beverly Veterans Advisory Committee for bringing our community together to honor those who've worn the uniform and served our great country. Veterans Day is a time to pause and reflect, not just on the sacrifices that our heroes made in battle, but on the values that drive those sacrifices: courage, honor, commitment, and service before self. Those values were at the heart of my own experience as a United States Marine. They guided me through some of the toughest moments of my life, and they continue to guide me today. Right now, our country needs those same values more than ever. Honor in our words, courage in our actions, and a renewed commitment to being a part of something larger than ourselves. To everyone in Beverly and across Massachusetts, I want to say thank you for your service, for the example you helped set, and for the work you continue to do in our communities.
Okay, Chuck Clark, can you come forward, please? Chuck is the chair of the Beverly Veterans Advisory Council. Is that correct?
Yes.
And if you could bring us forward, up to date, what's going on with, come on right around.
Beverly Veterans Council has been very busy. Basically, I want to speak tonight about Beverly 400, which is going to be celebrated during homecoming in Beverly next year, 2026. The Vietnam moving wall will be escorted in to Beverly on Wednesday, July 29th, 2026, and getting set up that day. That will be at the Beverly High School. On Thursday, July 30th, will be opening ceremony, 5 o'clock, at Beverly High School. Friday, July 31st, 26, food trucks will be there all day, and we're trying to locate a military band. We haven't got a confirmation on it yet. We've invited a couple, and we're just waiting to see. I mean, they may be deployed by then, so, could be the wait. But anyway, we're trying to do that. Saturday, August 1st, 2 o'clock, there'll be a car show at the Beverly High School underneath the solar panels. We're trying to build that up into a very big show. I mean, we had a real good start with it last year at the Legion Post, but there wasn't that much room there. So we're inviting other car clubs or anybody here that's got an antique car, bring it up there and put it in the show. There'll be a DJ at this car show, and there'll also be a cookout for veterans and families. And that will start at 4 o'clock. The car show will be earlier, but the cookout will start at 4. And Sunday, August 2nd, will be closing ceremonies. 9 a.m. And then they'll be breaking down the wall so they can ship on to their next location. All that'll be on the Beverly page, the Veterans page, so you don't have to remember all those dates I just gave you. But that's the week of homecoming, so just be watching before that time and you can get all the facts there. I also know that you want to talk to someone about veterans eligibility for disability or whatever. So I'm going to introduce Ken McKay. He is the Assistant Veteran Service Officer. And I think he knows as much about the VSO job as what he's doing. So, Ken, come on up.
Hey, Chuck. Thank you. You have the floor, sir.
How you doing? My name's Ken McKay. I'm the Assistant Director of Veteran Services here in Beverly. Some of you know me, some of you don't. There's a litany of benefits available to veterans and widows. Widows being the very underserved and under-reported population in every city and town across the Commonwealth. Our office sent out a mailer to every self-identified veteran and widow earlier this year, highlighting, detailing some of the benefits you might be available to receive. The disability benefits that are available to you, whether you were in a presumptive exposure location to chemicals or any disabilities based upon your MOS, if you're flight line, infantry, artillery, whatever you did, noise exposure, hearing loss, tinnitus. I'll have a stack of my cards I'll leave up on the table. Just call, make an appointment, have anybody come in. If you know of any widows of veterans who are in, their husbands may have passed from a service-connected injury or illness, give them our card, have them come down to the office. Every situation is different. We need to explore every situation independently. There's also a low-income benefit in the state of Massachusetts called Chapter 115. If an individual has an income of less than $2,500 a month, they would be eligible for the Chapter 115 program, which we could help them with fuel if they pay for that, heating fuel, medical reimbursements. They might get a check from the city of town every month. But this has been a law since 1861. And as far as VA disability goes, I know a lot of you guys, your mentality is save it for the guys who need it. That is not how the VA works. When you guys don't file your claims, the VA can scale back funding. When all of you guys are filing your claims, they're forward funding the next generation. That's how it's been since the Civil War, since the disability system was established. But like I said, I'm going to leave a pile of my cards up here, so both Dave and I are on the card. Give us a call, make an appointment, come down. Let's see what you might be eligible for, and let's help the next generation of veterans.
Thank you very much. That was very enlightening. Ray Mount, are you around here? Ray, could you update us on this summer's activity with veterans on the water?
Yeah, can I come up front?
Sure. Time's up.
I don't know, I forget. All right, now I'm ready.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm Ray Mount, and I've been a member here about 13 years. And a few years ago, Dave and I were having a drink at the bar, and we said, it's almost Veterans Day. Has the club done anything for veterans? Dave said, no, I've been in the club forever. and we haven't done anything for veterans. So Dave grabbed that ball, and here's what we have. So thanks, Dave. So how many did we have? How many names did you call?
55.
55 members of 450 are veterans, and we didn't know that until just recently. Dick? Yeah, I did. So we said, oh, we have all these people, all this energy, and we have all this wealth. You know, when you walk around here and you see the advantage we have, what do we do with this? So a couple of years ago, a few of us started to meet some of the veterans. How can we include community? How can we, like some of these veterans that are out there, they don't have boats. And could we share our boats with them? So that led to a program that we put together, the Jubilee Veterans Boating Program. And what's that mean? What should we do? So this summer we piloted the program, and I want to acknowledge the people here that were involved with that program and the effect it had on the community. Now, what community? Well, there's a vet center in Lowell that I've gotten to know some of the therapists there and some of the people. And that vet center, some of you may have attended. They provide a lot of mental health services. And they're also responsible for this area of services for veterans. So I got together with some of the social workers there and some of the boaters here, and we have a veterans boating program for them. So I'd like to call up some people to help me roll out what we did and the feedback we got from the veterans from the vet center who benefited by our program. So Gary Beckett, please come up, sir. Yes, and Dick Cullinane. Dick and Brian McMahon. So are you there? Please come up, my fellow boating veterans. And Rick, you're there, Rick Cassia. And Ray Mount, oh, he's here. And Tyler Jupp, is he here? Okay, Tyler's not here. And Henry Lucas. Henry's not here. Okay. So, so this program was the Lowell Vet Center folks that have gone through that program, you know, for addictions, for various issues that they're working with. And so they're ready to go out into the community, right, from treatment programs to community program. And so the outreach was to us to bring them into our community. I mean, so we take folks that need to experience what it's like to be here. So these folks used their boats, gave us their boats and their time and their service and their crew, and took those veterans out for a day on the water. So we put together this fun event. It was a ball. We had many different scavenger hunt kinds of things. They had to be aware of the tide and the current. But most of all, the community veterans got to know these guys. Now, I don't know whether that's particularly mentally healthy, but it was fun for them. And so they took back their experiences to their therapists and reported on these guys and that experience. So I have some input that I wanted to read from them, from the veterans in the community that these guys served. So we heard from Isabel Channel, who's a sweetheart, Belle, remember her? And so she sent us this from the veterans. So one Vietnam veteran tearfully reflected to me about his immense appreciation for the Boats for Veterans event. He said that he had felt a sense of acceptance and belonging at this event, which are feelings he does not get to feel often, and are especially poignant given his homecoming experience from Vietnam. Many messages of gratitude felt sense of belonging, connection, and camaraderie, peace, laughter, and good old-fashioned fun. Everyone said they would do this again and were very impressed with the event. Many veterans have been asking, when is the next event? Please pass on a huge thank you to Henry Lucas and his co-captain Alex. I've been told consistent messages from all three veterans who joined Henry. Henry did a fishing event for the veterans. Three veterans, they all are so grateful for the opportunity. They had a fantastic time. They couldn't believe that the trip was provided to them and was not lost on them. What a generous event they were gifted. They also couldn't believe the spread of food, breakfast and lunch, that these guys provided them. They felt like they were in great hands and appreciated the experience and professional nature of the trip, erring on the side of caution with rough seas. They had an engine malfunction. It was a disaster from our perspective, but these guys loved it. They loved being here, and most of all, they loved the guys, our association, so that we were able to give the veterans us and our privilege here. So I'm just really pleased for this event and proud of the guys that joined me that day and the event. Look forward to doing it next year. So anybody's interested could please come and see me and sign up for the Veterans event, boating event next year. Thank you.
At the end.
Thank you. Anybody here ever hear the expression loyalty up and loyalty down? Well, I have to congratulate my crew that day, Patty, who did an excellent job helping to sail a boat and helping to make sure our veterans on board had a good time. Thanks, Patty.
One more comment.
Because I don't think we should fail to mention the fleet captain of the Yacht Club, my lovely wife, Terry Beckett. She kept those guys busy while I drove the boat.
It's a good thing you did that. Please do. Thank you, gentlemen. That was really a worthwhile event. I got a little side note here that has something to do with Veterans Administration. Last week, a friend of mine handed me this form, and it's the Veterans Administration Form 40-10007, and it's an application for pre-need determination of eligibility for burial at a VA National Cemetery. So what this basically is you fill this out, and if your wishes may be carried out once you pass, if you're accepted. So his wife was really on his case. He said, well, you need to have a military funeral. You need to be buried in the military cemetery. He says, I'm not interested in that. I want to be cremated. And so she just said, look, I think this is a good thing, and you'll probably pass first, so you're going to be in that cemetery. And he said, I told you I want to be cremated. And she looks at him and she says, is next Tuesday okay? All right. Next on the agenda, we have Professor Bob Norris. A lot of you may have remembered Bob last year talking about the Civil War, World War I, World War II, Vietnam. But we forgot. We have to go back to 1775. So back by popular demand, Professor Bob Norris.
Thanks, veterans, for your service, and welcome to the Jubilee. And thanks, Dave, for putting this night together. It's been a great experience. And I'd also like to thank my dear friend Dana Henry for researching my paper and putting a timeline together. So, yeah, she did a lot of work. I'd like to take us all back to the year 1775. Why? Well, in part because this year, 2025, is a 250th anniversary of our American Revolution. There have been many firsts in our history. The first flight by the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk. The first nuclear submarine with a familiar name. The first man on the moon. But this story is of a lesser well-known first. The first official battle of the U.S. Navy. Who knows what the first battle was? The Battle of the Hannah and the HMS Nautilus. HMS is a prefix that means His Majesty's ship. I'm sure many of you know about this story, but my goal is to tell you what you may not know. So why am I telling you this on Veterans Day? Actually, there are three reasons. As I mentioned, the 250th anniversary of the Revolution. This battle of the Hannah and the Nautilus happened right here, right outside these windows. There would be cannonballs flying 250 years ago. The battle, the story of patriotism is what we're all patriots. In the spring of 1775, battles at Lexington and Concord had been fought. And June 17th saw the Battle of Bunker Hill. In early July, General George Washington arrived near Boston to take command of the Continental Army. He could see from hilltops in Cambridge British supply ships arriving in Boston Harbor almost daily. He needed a navy, but there was no authorization from the Continental Congress for this purpose. So in August of 1775, he ordered Colonel John Glover of Marblehead to hire a crew and arm a local vessel. That vessel was the Hannah, tied alongside the wharf in Beverly Harbor, today known as Glover's Wharf, headquarters of Beverly's Harbor Master. In September, Hannah was outfitted with 2 cannons and 2 swivel guns. Captain Nicholas Broughton of Marblehead took command. There is an interesting side story not widely known about the Hannah. On station off of Cape Ann, Hannah chased and boarded the brig Unity. What the Hannah crew didn't know was that although the Unity was flying British colors, It was an American vessel, having been taken as a prize of war the day before. The Unity was crewed by British sailors, headed for Boston with the American captain as prisoner. The Hannah's crew soon realized that there would be no payment of 1/3 the value of the cargo because the vessel was American. The next day, the crew refused to sail, waiting for some form of restitution. When General Washington heard this news, he ordered 200 men from Salem, Beverly, and Manchester militias to arrest the mutineers. The 3 leaders of the rebellion were flogged and drummed out of the Navy. As September ended, Captain Broughton recruited a new crew and set sail in hopes of capturing a British merchant ship. Beverly was a safe harbor for pirateers. British warships would not enter for fear of running aground. The harbor channel was 2 miles long with many course changes. Local knowledge was a must, and it still is. In the coming years, several captured British merchantmen were at anchor in Beverly Harbor and the Danvers River. On a Saturday morning in September, the Hannah was offshore, east of Boston, when she sighted a British unarmed supply ship on course for Boston. She gave chase. The Hannah fired several shots, but were forced to break off when they got close to Boston. Boston was controlled by the British Navy. The Hannah then returned to Beverly. About the same time, the British man of war, HMS Nautilus, was off Newport, Rhode Island, sailing for Boston. The day before, the Nautilus had captured the brig Polly, an American vessel. Polly's crew was taken prisoner and chained together in the hold of the Nautilus. The 8 men would be held there until after the battle with the Hannah, and they were actually forced to load cannons that were fired on the Hannah. The British Naval Admiral, upon learning of the Hannah firing on a British troop ship, ordered Nautilus to sail north and east for Cape Ann and hunt down the rebellious fishing boat. The Nautilus made quick repairs to her top gallant yard, reefed some sails, and headed east and for Cape Ann in a westerly breeze. October 10th, 1775, captain of the Hannah and crew set for the open sea. That same day, the Nautilus reported her position as halfway rock. We all know that's right out here, right outside Salem Bay. Hannah was sighted coming out of Beverly. Captain Collins of the Nautilus knew this was his target and steered across Salem Bay. I think we're all on the edge of our seats. HMS Nautilus was a three-masted man of war, 96 feet, carrying 16 guns. Lost my place. the Hannah came about and headed for the safety of Beverly Harbor. Captain Broughton had to make a decision. Fearing capture of his ship and crew, he ordered the helmsman to steer for the shallows. Hannah comes aground under full sail near Tuck's Point. This building sits on Tuck's Point. The Nautilus drops her anchor to stay out of Hannah's cannon range. The Hannah's crew quickly removes the cannons with the help of spectators on the beach. Nautilus swings broadside as the anchor takes hold on the outgoing tide. She fires a cannonade, one shot hitting downtown Beverly. The British crew is unaware that they are in 2 feet of water in a receding tide. The good citizens of Salem haul a cannon to Salem Point, known today as Salem Willows. I got some. Captain, the good citizens of Salem, I lost my place, haul a cannon to Salem Point, known as Salem Willows. They fired for several hours while the Nautilus was aground. Captain Collins of the Nautilus reported he received many shots in my rigging and sails. The crew would only take cover and pray that the tide would return quickly. As darkness fell over Salem Bay, the Nautilus quietly slipped out of Beverly Harbor and spent the night in the lee of Thatcher's Island. It's kind of a boring ending. But this is a story of David and Goliath. The single scrappy fishing schooner that dared to poke the greatest navy on earth right in its nautical pride. A few notes to history. The next day, the townspeople of Beverly voted to fund the placement of cannons on Woodbury Point, today known as Lynch Park. Another one is George Washington never set foot on Hannah. And Washington did lead boats across the Delaware, which were manned by Marblehead men. Thanks for listening.
Now you know the true story. Thank you. Couldn't get along without them. So anyway, that probably proves that the Beverly is really the birthplace of the American Navy. So what you see on the screen is a license plate topper, and I really can't tell you where I got it. It was actually given to me when I admired it. But back in the day, probably in the 50s when those were made up, you could attach those to the top of your license plate. So that's the story on that. Yes. Swampscott? Lynn? We all know who the other guys are. The story on that form that I was talking about to schedule a burial service. So he handed me this form. And I said, what are you going to do with yours? He says, well, I'm going to send it in today. So that was like on a Monday. And I said, well, when do you think you'll see an answer? He goes, like, there's kind of a talk going around that the Veterans Administration doesn't get stuff done very fast. Anyway, 7 days to the day he got his answer back that he was approved. So pretty fast, I think, for any organization. But that's the end of that story. Okay, our feature tonight is another good story. And I'd like to have Bill Foy Jr. come forward and introduce our speaker.
What a nice event. Thank you, Dave, for inviting us. Tell you a little bit about Richie Foy. I'm Bill Foy. I'm child number 1 in the family. Richie's number 3. If some of you know Patty, she's number 6, because there was 8 of them. So I'll just give you a little background about Richie and all of us. We were raised in New London, Connecticut. If you know where that is, it's down by the sea. Richie went off to UConn and was a history major, which is important here. And also he happened to be an All-American football center. You'll notice he's the largest of our family. He became an author. He became an author, thank goodness, because our father, who had been sort of the heroine of this story, wouldn't tell us anything about World War II. He was in World War II. He was a fighter pilot. He ended up at the end of the war on the Enterprise, and he was flying Hellcats and they were attacking the Japanese in the Philippines. And so he gets shot down over the Philippines. He's chased by the Japanese. He's taken by the guerrillas and harbored in very many places. Could have easily been killed because they wanted those pilots very badly. They wanted to make examples of them. And so off they go, and so he ends up finding a way out. And my favorite character in this whole operation is this little girl who, when going to school, she was late going to school that day. This is around Manila somewhere. And she spies this very large man who looks very strange and runs home and tells the people, who thankfully are guerrillas, that there is this large man out there that's carrying a big white thing called parachute. And because he got shot down, exited the plane, pulled the ripcord probably too low, lands with a jolt, and they find out later, 3 months later, after being tracked through the various places as they smuggle him around with the authorities trying to get him, they end up with him deciding that he's got to get out of here, and they arranged that for him, and the guerrillas were just great. So it's a great story. Should be a movie of sacrifice and fate and luck. But this little girl, to me, is the one I remember when I read the story. She acted, they saved her, saved him, moved him around, and get them like they wanted to. So I think it's really important to note here that as he goes through this, he ends up in many things happen, and he's picked up by the PBY, and they get back to the United States, and he gets back to the United States. The doctor examines him because they want to put him back into active service. And he goes in to see the doctor. The doctor looks at him and says, "Don't move. Your neck is broken." So he's been 3 months being chased through the jungles and the undergrowth, and survived all that. So we're all grateful that that happened. He returns to the United States, and part of the story is that he meets another veteran who is a Navy nurse when he is rehabilitating, and the Navy nurse turns out to eventually be my mother, and a happy ending, so you can see how the movie's going to end. It's just the perfect thing. But it was a wonderful story. My favorite character, as I said, is that little girl who pushed the alarm and did the right thing and probably saved his life. So let me tell you about Richie, number 3's son. He's the historian of the family. He graduated from UConn. He was a principal. He was also superintendent of schools. And he's no stranger to yacht clubs. He was a very good ensign skipper competitively in Long Island Sound, where ensigns were really hot at that time. He still owns an ensign. So I wanted to introduce him to you and bring him forward. And I hope you'll enjoy the story. I think it's full of fate and heroism, and I'm going to turn it over to Richie because he knows the story. I'd also say that it was hard to get information on the story. We're young kids. We know this has happened. We know there's a lot of excitement around my father. But every time you talk to him and you ask him a question, he'd say, no, we'll talk about that later. We're not going to talk about that. And so you couldn't get anything out of him. So then as you get older, there was a story, there was an album that had the story that he wrote. It was about 10 pages long, but it didn't have all the details in it that we were led to find out later. And so where's the information going to come from? Well, somebody did something about that, and that was Richie. And he went to the archives in Washington, spent days and weekends down there researching what happened, reading the reports on the from the Enterprise and other kinds of records that were available to him, and wrote the book that documents all this. And so he's got the details, and here he is, my brother Rich.
So last February, with my wife Delia, who's here, and we're at lunch with the young lady, now 99 years old, and her family went to lunch in Los Baños, which is a couple hours drive out of Manila. So my father, coming out of Lowell, he is a 6'2", 180-pound, red-haired, blue-eyed Irishman. So he didn't fit in the Philippine jungle areas. And The daughter leaned over to me. This was at lunch and said, "You know, my mother still has a crush on your father." True story. Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful, wonderful event, and I'd like to add my thanks to all the veterans that are here, and we're talking about one veteran, my father. Special thanks to my wife, who has been a partner in this endeavor, Dahlia, and has tolerated museums and archives and 2 trips to the Philippines, has been a wonderful partner in this endeavor. And my family members that are here, Patty, Billy, did I see Leo and Hugh and Jane and Hugh, Molly, also here. So thank you for coming. And I'd like to thank Dave, who I met, and we talked about the book, and he wanted me to come up here. I said, I'm very glad to do that. And Billy and I used to race against each other in the ensigns when he had an ensign. There's always 2 races. There was the race against the other 15 ensigns, and there was a race what brother was going to win, because you had to pay for the beer that evening. We had some fun times. It was good, and that was before he came up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you the story, and I'll tell you some detail. I can't tell it all, it's just too big a story. But you'll get an idea, especially about the people that helped my father, and then the naval history. You'll get some of that. I won't go too deep into that, but you'll see some of that as we go along the way. I hope you enjoy that. I'll start out by I'll take you from February to today, and then I'm going to use the PowerPoint I used in Manila when I was at their 80th anniversary of the Battle of Manila. So we'll start. We'll start with a quick 3-minute story that NBC Hartford did, that Kevin Nathan did some years ago. It kind of will give you some context to start. So we'll see if the media works.
5-year anniversary of D-Day, we pay tribute to our greatest generation. Months after D-Day, American pilot William Boyd was shot down in the Philippines. And what happened from there to the late former London High School principal reads like a Hollywood script.
His survival story was captured in a book called Foy and the Filipinos. It's written by his son, Rich. NBC Connecticut's Kevin Nathan has more.
Rich Foy opens a trunk full of memories from his new London home. For decades, Foy's father, William, quietly tucked away the pilot chute, neck brace, and letters that would define his World War II survival story.
Most of the World War II combat veterans had seen so much they just wanted to move on. They didn't want to talk about it.
But before William Foy died in 1993, he revealed the trunk and some of the stories inside it. It inspired Rich Foy to write a book about his father.
My father would have been flying over this.
On October 18, 1944, the final chapter of Foy's story was nearly written. On his 22nd single-pilot mission, his plane was shot down by the Japanese.
The engine smoking, hard to see, hard to breathe.
Foy lost radio control. His best option to bail out over land in the Philippines.
One of his memories said, boy, this is it. You have to jump out, try not to get hit with a part of the plane.
Foy's parachute didn't have enough time to fully deploy.
As he hits the ground, he feels a searing pain in his back and his neck.
Foy landed feet first and dislocated and broke his neck. Some teenage boys found him in the town of Los Baños in the Philippines.
He said, what do you want? He said, I want to get away. He was in trouble. He was in trouble.
Foy says his father laid on his back for 3 weeks as the pro-American Filipino guerrilla fighters hid him from the Japanese. Foy estimates that 20 to 30 people lost their lives protecting his father and another American pilot.
The Japanese are searching, and there are people massacred or killed and tortured for not telling where these pilots were.
That's emotional for you.
Oh, yeah. You're here. because of those people.
After about 4 months in hiding, Foy and fellow pilot John Boyle used a mirror to get discovered on a lake and picked up by an American seaplane.
One of the things is the random nature of who lived and who died.
Back in the U.S., the random one-on-one nurse Foy needed became his wife and mother to 8 kids and 19 grandchildren.
It's a movie script that it'd be hard for Hollywood to believe.
It took retired educator Rich Foy 8 years of research to write the book. It's a tribute to his father, all World War II veterans, and the brave Filipinos who sacrificed so much.
It was a thank you to tell what the Filipino people did to save my father. If you weren't choked up, it wasn't a good day writing.
Rich Foy says his dad sent letters to thank the Philippines. In writing the book, Rich Foy traveled to the Philippines and found the people who saw his father bail out of the plane and gave him first aid. Chance encounters Foy calls lucky and divine intervention. The book's available on Amazon. Foy says proceeds will go to a scholarship fund for students in the Philippines. Kevin Nickel, NBC Connecticut.
Kevin's he's a wonderful person. But the context of this is that if you got caught helping the pilot, you were going to be killed. Now, they might have kept the pilot if they wanted to torture him and get information, but it was life or death. And these people, they knew that was on the 18th. MacArthur came back on the 20th of October. So he was coming back. But they risked their lives. And it was a horrible time in the Philippines. It's as bad as any of the stories that you hear in occupied France or any of those places. They had, a traditional Philippine hut would have a place underneath for the animals that they could put them in a pen, and then a living quarters, and then storage above, basically. And they put family in the bottom and they lit it on fire, and they all died because they helped Foy. And I have the documentation on that. So it is a very humbling thing to read that in the guerrilla records. So understanding the context and how lucky he was, because he had rolled the 6th and 7th vertebrae up in one another and cracked some bones on the way and had to hold his head up. But we'll see a little bit of that. So let's continue with the story. Here you have. Dave gave me a heads up on a YouTube about Lieutenant Laxton that it says at the top, and that's the reference. Now that group there, TJ3 I think it is, they did an animation of 2 dogfights, and Bill Foy flew on the wing of Laxton in those fights. So they show the computer enhanced things, and they're in Formosa in one battle, and then they're in the battle where my father's shot down. It was really interesting. Of course, they said my father wrote the book. I didn't write the book after, but that's okay. But I'm standing at the American Cemetery in Manila pointing to Laxton's name because he didn't make it through the day. My father's engine was smoking. He made it. Laxton got a bullet through the oil line. Engine seized up. He went in an inverted dive into the ground. And of course, there was no remains, and he's on the wall of the missing. And I've been to Normandy Cemetery, and I've been to Manila Cemetery, American Cemetery, a couple of times. And it is a stark, solemn, beautiful place, right on the edge of the city. So I was on when we were there. We were on a battlefield tour. Part of it we went to the cemetery, and I told some people a little bit about Laxton. But Dave showed me, and I said, "That's unbelievable!" Out of the blue, Laxton is. They have a they have a video about him. Moving on. So this is in Manila. I put up this slide. This is going from the JV team to the varsity team. So now I'm at Lyceum near Intramuros in Manila, and there are some high-end historians there. The American in the middle, Peter Parsons, his father was Chip. organized submarines to bring supplies in during the war. Some high-level people. So I was with the first team. On the right, that's the ambassador, and in the middle is Dr. Jose. He says, "Rich, come here. I want you to meet the ambassador who spoke about guerrilla saving pilots during the war." So I said to Dee, I said, I gotta say hello to the ambassador, Mary Lou Carlson, and very nice. Shook hands, and Dee took that great picture. So I was in the higher echelons of history folks that particular day. Here about this is the one of the schools we give to with the money we raised, and we were at the school. Let me just make sure I get a name here. So Maribel's, she's the head of school. Behind her is Dave Ingles, who's the son of one of the very famous guerrilla units, ROTC guerrillas of the Philippines. And he was there for the ceremony. On the right. 2 Army veterans run the foundation that gives to this school, which is the University of the Philippines at Los Baños Rural High School. And they are descendants, those people are descendants of those folks that were in the Los Baños internment camp, concentration camp for people that were stuck in the Philippines, civilians stuck in the Philippines during the beginning of the war. The 11th Airborne saved them. Quite a dramatic rescue. They asked me about that. She asked me to speak. It's dangerous to ask an old principal to speak about something. And I told them, I said, over there, I told the kids, over there, that's where my father was shot down. And your people from your town saved him. So I played it up. It was fun. I did about 5 minutes. But I wanted to let them know how brave those folks were. And here, on the left, to the left of me is Delia Manzones, and then the next lady is Trinidad. Now, Trinidad was 13, used to bring food to my father when she was 13 years old. She also thought he was utterly handsome. She told me that and wrote it. But she did, the other thing she said, our family treated your father to us like he was a brother, and my father treated him like he was a son. So that's the way they were treated. And if they got caught, they would have got killed. It was life or death. And they nurtured him, and he had a broken neck, and he laid in one of the houses, not unlike where we show there. But the moving part was Dee and I walked in, and they had prepared lunch for us, and they said, this is first Trinidad said, Bill. She thought it was my father, you know. And the daughter on the far left says, no, Mom, this is Richard. But Trinidad wasn't having any of that. She wanted to see Bill. So, but they said one of the dishes they made for lunch said, this was your father's favorite. This is 80 years later. Says, this is your father's favorite. And we had a nice meal. We talked a little bit, and she's 96. And it was a beautiful day. On the right, that's Sophie Tidone. She was a guerrilla corporal. You'll see her a little later in the video. She's 99 there, turned 100 in September, and was a politician, was a principal, quite a lady, and also received the Congressional Gold Medal. I'll show that a little later on. This is a map to get your head around it. The big map, of course, is the Philippines. You can see where the Enterprise was, and they had to fly west, and they went towards this particular mission, the last one, towards Manila. It was overcast, so they went up to Clark Field, and there his plane was shot up. The engine was shot up, but he was able to Foy was able to make it back to Laguna de Bay, which is, you can see there. And then I made a bigger scale. And this all took place between Los Baños and in Lake Tahoe. You could see in the enhanced or larger scale. So in a fairly small area, but most of the time they were walking. They did get Foy a horse because he was having trouble walking with a neck, of course. All right, so this is the basics of a little bit of my background. What happens is we started in the community foundation. We started to accumulate money, and we donate to the 3 groups up there. The high school I showed you at Los Baños Rural High School, and the kids Philippines, and also the Philippine Peace Corps alumni group. That's very active. So we give them money, and we've done pretty well. We have some big donors, some little donors, and we're up to nearly $100,000, and we give that out. So we don't make anything on the book or the donations. It all goes into the fund. And I'm at Lake Tahoe behind me. And that's where the seaplane came in to pick up Foy. It was absolutely spectacularly beautiful. It's had a couple volcanic eruptions since then. I'm not sure what it looks like now. So this is the book, and I do have. I did bring copies of the book. If you're interested, I've got some books today. So you have Dee's painting of Bill Foy on Puto Hill with Shano, Ali, and his little brother. And they first found Foy, and then the guerrillas came quickly after that. And they saw him. He bailed out at 300 feet. So you're military guys, 300 feet. You're barely going to, it's just rattling. It's a parachutes rattling around. Actually, a guerrilla, Estubeza, one of the guerrillas said, a partially open chute was the report he gave after the war. So he hit hard, rolled the 6th and 7th vertebrae. In the process, cracked some bones. They hit him. They went up the hill, Puto Hill. They hit him in a real, very difficult place to get to. Japanese soldier came towards them, probably 20 yards away, and my father and 2 guerrillas had their 45s out, and this is dense hill, steep jungle, and the Japanese soldier turns around, and it's wet. It rained all night, so it was wet and nasty. And so they said, that's it. I'm going the other way. So pretty lucky, and they got him out of there, and Sophie, who we talked about, gave him first aid with a couple of her friends, and they just kept them moving. And on the other side, you see a picture of the Hellcat he flew, and one author, Roscoe, called him the luckiest fighter pilot in the U.S. Navy, and they were pretty good. And the bottom is the guerrillas and the PQOG, President Canzoni's own guerrillas, was a group that saved him, and that's a piece of what the Philindero Avicenna said about the incident. So that's the back. That's the back cover of the book. Inside, in the inside leaf, I put the fighter pilots, Air Group 20 signatures that my father got when he went to an Enterprise reunion because he was off the Enterprise, Air Group 20. And on the right are guerrilla signatures. They signed the book the day he left. It's up there if you can see. It's February 5th, 1945, when he got picked up by the Catalina OA-10. There was an Air Force veteran. The Army Air Force rescue plane. Garbe, who was from St. Paul, saved 55 pilots, highly decorated. Talked to his daughter. He had passed away. Remember the name down the bottom, Manuel Roa, the bottom right. We'll come back to him later as we go on. So writing it took 8 years. The story went beyond just a Navy story. It was really about the human story, about the Filipino people and the drama and the caring that they did to save my father. But it's been a pretty popular story. On the left is they had a Filipino Navy and Navy Day on the USS Hornet museum ship, and Cecilia Garland, who's one of the trustees there, did a number of posters. This is one of them she did with my father and the other pilot, John Boyle, and that was a few years back. Dee and I went out to that, and the bottom right is the YouTube citation for what you saw today. So this is Dahlia. I had my arm around her in the picture. She was a little girl after the war, and she was riding with her father on horseback, and they were out in the fields, and she said, and he said to her, father said to her, "This is where we hid the American pilot." And she said, "Daddy, did the pilot make it home?" And her father says, yes, the pilot made it home alive. And I met her, Dee and I met her for the first time at lunch. That was pretty moving. She was just a little child during the war. So this is his next put back together. My father, he's on Maggie's Private Wire, which was the big radio show, the comings and goings of what was going on in New York City. And one of the things he says, "I'll never forget the loyalty of the Filipino guerrillas." I was fortunate enough, he got this picture, his photograph, and he also had the transcript. So, and I tried to get the tape from because the NBC radio, but it was in a remote location, and they didn't record remote locations. So it would be such a hoot to hear his voice. It's too bad, but it's the way it goes. This is the general of the guerrilla group, Phil Avicenna, and he wrote this note and put it in the book that I previously spoke about, and talked about the loyalty and the love that they had for saving the two pilots. Foy he bailed out in October 18th, and Boyle on November 6th, and they got together at the end of November and spent the rest of the time together. Boyle had some burns on his legs, but he was okay besides that. So I think my sister hit it, and this is the first time that I thought about it this way. And she thought, Kathleen, she was here for the baby shower a couple of days ago. And she said she thought that my father, he was out of education, working an electric boat, human relations, and the executive track, and he went back to be principal of the high school. And she said, and I think she's right, she said, "I think he did it because he felt he had to give back." I thought that was interesting. I never thought about it that way. We were kids. What were we thinking about that? He wanted to give his life back to do something because he had been so lucky to survive. And the older I get, the more sense that made. Here he is as principal. I think probably Billy might have been at this prom. This is about 64. This might have been junior prom, and it's my mother. It's my mother next to him. That's a picture from the yearbook. My father used to always tell me, "You get a good picture in the yearbook as principal, just keep using it. Don't take another one." I did that for about 5 years. I had the same one at one of the high schools I was at. And this is, look at the record of John Boyle. He was off to Hancock. And you can see what he did. I'm trying to read this. Okay. So they used to call him, the Filipinos would call him the American Joes, the twins, the two American Joes. And Boyle was highly decorated with Lady Gulf, he was there. So they used to, the Hellcats would go in at Lady Gulf, and you probably all have heard and know about Lady Gulf and the big naval battle they had. I mean, you might, and they always talk about Halsey and the Typhoons, but the Hellcats would go in and they would shoot up the battleships to suppress anti-aircraft fire, and they'd shoot rockets in there so the bombers could get in and the torpedo planes could get in. But that was their job. If you're a helicopter pilot, that's what you did. Oh my! And sometimes they did. You might have been assigned to a destroyer like Bellevue from another pilot in the quadrant from Lowell. He hit off a depth charge in the back or a torpedo and blew the destroyer up, and a Silver Star for that. But he said to his son told me, he said, if the pilot I was with knew how badly he was injured, he never would have made it. I talked to him. Here's the Enterprise on the left. There's an F-6F going off aircraft carrier number 6. Flaps down, tail wheel up just a hair. You can see that the rudder, the back elevator's just up a little, just getting that wheel just off, and off they went. And on the right, with the dazzle pattern in fall of 1944, with the Avengers forward, torpedo bombers, and then Hellcats and a couple in the middle, and then the Helldivers in the back. That's probably the most famous, iconic picture of Air Group 20. And this is the deck load of fighters warming up. So you had to be pretty careful if you're working on the deck, huh? You got the props turning on the Hellcats. They go off first, then the torpedo bombers, and then the dive bombers. On the right is the skipper, Fred Bakutis from Brockton, Annapolis grad, became an admiral. Men loved him. This is D&I with, this is Leonisa. So she's in the field. She's in the field just beyond where my father's going to bail out. She sees him bail out. And she runs to her father, who was a Filipino scout, and he has been let go at this point. The Japanese let him go back. And I asked her to tell me what did you see? She stood up. Dee's taping. She stood up and she's only about this tall. She stood. She goes, I saw the plane. You know, she was back there. It was amazing. She was back there. It was 1944. Again, the grandson stopped. He was preparing lunch. And stopped, and he looked like, you mean all the things Granny was saying are true? I said, yes, they are. Lovely. She has passed. She worked as a doctor in Manila, some of the toughest, poorest places in Manila before she came to the United States. A wonderful lady. This is where he bailed out. Just beyond, this is on the campus, University of the Philippines, Los Baños. Just beyond the tower in the hills, there's a flat area. On the left, that's the backside of Puto Hill. And the upper left is the wartime prison camp that there were about 2,100, mostly Americans. And they were going to kill them all, but the 11th Airborne came and saved them. One of the great famous raids of World War II. So we've been there a couple of times. Very moving to look at that. So they had him. So the report, the guerrilla report says that they missed him. They missed him for 5 days. They had him for 5 days. They got him out of the hill. Those are the hills that I told the kids at the school. That's where you saved the American pilot. He was real proud, Avicenna, of the men and what they did. On the left is the lady that saw him bail out at the San Francisco conference. I got to introduce her and thank her at the San Francisco conference. I mean, how lucky is that? Saw your father, saw him bail out. And you just found it by happenstance. Look, actually, I think it's divine intervention. We found and I got to say thank you, and they gave her a great round of applause. And on the right, I'm with her, and I'm with a gal named Cynthia Bonta. Cynthia says to me, I got a big armful of books. She says, my friend and family friend was a gorilla. I said, what was his name? So his name was Manuel Roa, the name I showed you. So I said, wait a minute. So I put down the books, I pick up one, and in the back there's a leaf. I said, and with his nickname. They all wrote their nickname. I said, so you know this guy? She goes, oh my God. So Cynthia's son is the current Attorney General in California. Bonta, he's been on TV a little bit lately. But nice, I've met him, nice family. She's a very, very nice gal. That was a pretty interesting moment. And the guy on the right, he was the big leader, Fernando. And Felix made the lean-tos, the best lean-tos when they were hiding in the jungle. Up on the right is Trinidad again, and Pedro was a logistics officer for the guerrillas. So Florencia, who's passed away, Pedro told her, "You better get the chicken, because she's going to die if we don't get him some food." He said, "We can eat scraps, but give him your best." So if they walked through a village, the people ran out, gave him the best food, because they'd have a handful of guerrillas, the two pilots, and they were going from place to place hiding, all at the risk of death. And this is Billy's friend Sophie, politician. I went down in San Antonio. She received her Congressional Gold Medal, along with a number of other Filipinos. They decided, Congress decided in 2008, well, we're going to recognize, a little late, but we're going to recognize those people that helped us in the Philippines, as Philippines was a part of the U.S. at that time. She was very happy. She's a tough lady. I heard her speak. They took her, the Japanese caught her running messages for the guerrillas. So they took her, they tied her ankles, took her upside down, and dumped her in the rain barrel, and her hands too bound. And they dumped her in a rain barrel 3 or 4 times. Every time come up, will tell us who the guerrillas are. Now these are all the people that are saving my, going to save my father, Espino, and she knew them all because she worked for him. And she was telling the story back then. And she said, and her back was straight, and she looked out at the crowd that she was talking to, and she says, "You tell them they'll kill you, and then they kill 100 more." Pretty powerful stuff. But I think one of her great quotes, I always told her that, says she was, "I am stronger than my misfortunes." Japanese killed her mother and family members. It was a horrible time. So I found this letter in the archives down in Maryland. I was going through it, and suddenly I saw this handwriting. I said, I know this handwriting. And it talks about Umali, and that's his picture on the left. And they eventually got word back to the Enterprise, but by that time the group had transferred to the Lexington. So they didn't know he was there until after. This is Manuel Roa, the picture of the guy I was talking about. And on the left is the barangay where they came in looking for the pilots 2 days after they had left. And no one would say where they were or where they went. And they massacred 14 people, kids, parents. And I talked to a gal who was a retired elementary principal in San Luis, and she said her father got wind of it, that the Japanese were coming, through a friend of a friend of a friend, all that kind of thing going on. she said, I remember we had to get out of there because they said the Japanese were coming. And so she was lucky she survived. We talked to her. Actually, we went to the chapel in that place. We pulled in the chapel. Let's go say a prayer at the chapel. Dee and I and the guides we had. And we got there, and there was one of the gentlemen had about 19, had a big bolo on his waist. So I figured he was in charge. And we said, we go in, oh, it's locked, this or that. And he was talking to the guide, very pretty recent college grad. And they were talking, and she says, Mr. Richard, she said, his aunt is a Manzones, which was the family of the girls who were over her house, and she told me the story. There's amazing coincidences that we were able to do. They would chase him with police dogs. They double back, just like in the movies, and do the trail so they couldn't find him. All the common things they called it the trail blinding technique. So here we are, Lake Tahoe. We're about to go to rescue. So the pilots, I don't think this works. Yeah, it doesn't work. So on the island, they had the two pilots. So they signal to the 11th Airborne parachute drop that was just to the left of where this picture was taken from. And the 11th Airborne dropped there, and they signaled with a mirror from the island, and 30, imagine it's a scene of 30 C-47s come down on the deck, about 30 feet, to go by to take a look. They pushed the pilots forward so they could see them. And can you imagine you've been, for 3 months, you've been in the jungle, and these 30 C-47s, after they dropped off their paratroopers, go by, and you think, well, hey, I might make it. And then the P-47s came, because they were escorting the C-47s. And they did some barrel rolls, etc. And it was too late in the day, and they came back the next day. And just like in the movies, the P-47s come, they just got a message with a ribbon, and they take a couple passes, and they throw the message ball, whatever they use, with a ribbon on it. They pick it up and say, help's coming. And a couple hours later, the PPY came, OA-10, Army Air Force. They rescued a lot of pilots, especially in the Philippines at this time. They came in, picked them up, and he worked his way back, Mindoro, back to Leyte, and then to Guam, and eventually, and they hit one of the islands in between, and back to Pearl Harbor. He got back to Pearl Harbor a few days before the air group was coming back on an escort carrier. So the air group, well, that's the beach, and it looked across at where the parachute dropped. That's where they would have signaled from. And a picture of a Catalina, great plane, rescued, saved a lot of pilots, did other things in the war also. And this is an escort carrier, Kwajalein, and they brought back the air group to Pearl Harbor. So notice the gun ports, the little tubs on the end. So they pull into Pearl Harbor, and on the pier is Bill Foy. Been missing since October. And they pull in, it's February in 1945, and they pull in, and there he is, and so they're hanging off the gun tubes as they pull into the wharf in Pearl Harbor, and they see who it is. And the word spreads, and they get excited, and in perfect prose they say, "Where the hell have you been?" They're yelling. Where the hell have you been? So, and they went to the eventually they were at the hotel and telling stories about what had happened. They probably had a few root beers, I would suspect. They were back from the war, then back to San Diego. And as Billy said, my father gets back to Lowell, and his neck hurts. And at night, he used to stick his neck underneath the sink, one of those old soapstone sinks. That still existed even when we got there. And to make his neck feel better. And eventually went back to duty after 30 days leave, and down at Trenton Naval Air Station, they took a picture and almost dropped. And the rest is the love story. Thank you very much.
What a wonderful account of history. And I'm sure Lieutenant Boyd's looking at us right now.
That's my work book.
Yeah. We also invited some neighbors tonight. We have Rosa and Nelson Miranda, and they live right across the street here. And they're Filipino citizens, but also American citizens. Am I correct? And we'd like you to stand up and, so the people can see who you are. And they also have their daughter and son-in-law. And their granddaughter is Mandy Harrington. She's the captain of our sailing team. Yeah, but okay. So they've been given the book, and yeah, and thank you for coming. Yeah. All right, Bill. All right, man. That was wonderful. Okay. Well, we're going to shift gears a little bit. Oh, I'm sorry.
Lots of dessert.
Okay, we got about 5 minutes to go, and then don't forget we have plenty of good dessert here. And Dick Cullenham wanted to talk about a minute and a half. Dick is the BSO officer from Topsfield, and he's also a club member.
My wife says I just can't pass a microphone. I don't know. Over the last couple of 3-4 days, I've gone to several schools, and we've had a service on the Common. And when most of us came back in the late 60s and 70s, the reception wasn't great. And, we didn't have many celebrations. We didn't have things like this. We didn't have town celebrations and things like that. You just melded into the world, did your job, and away you went. Well, I got to tell you, between the last 2 days where I've gone to grade schools from first grade through sixth grade and watched the kids put on presentations and show the honor for veterans and work with us on service on the greens and things like that, we're leaving this, and I'm saying this because most of you are gray as I am, we're leaving this world much better off in the hands of these kids. They'll be terrific. If you've sat through one of these presentations, they're great. So thank you. I just wanted to pass that.
Okay, Dick, thank you. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. A lot of us veterans, the lucky ones, are all here tonight. We made it back from our various encounters. At the same time, there are a lot of us that made it back that really haven't really straightened their lives out. And I have a little music video here that's about 4 minutes long about an individual who came back and tried to survive, and this talks a little bit about it. So I hope you like country music. This is the Bellamy Brothers, and the name of the music video is Old Hippie.
Sunday, in his hair 1,000
made him happy, and the silence made him cry. It makes a job sometimes, and he has to wonder why. Yeah, he's an old hippie and he don't know what to do. Should he hang on to the old? Should he grab on to the new? He's an old hippie that's new life with the same boss. He ain't trying to change nobody. He's just trying real hard to do his best. Well, he was sure back in the 60s that everyone was hip. And they sent him on to Vietnam on his senior trip. And he forced him to become a man while he was still a boy. And behind his wave of tragedy, he waited for the joy. Now this world may change around him, but he just can't change no more. Yeah, he's an old hippie and he don't know what to do. Should he hang on to the old? Should he grab on to the new? He's an old hippie that's new life is his day bus. He ain't trying to change nobody. He's just trying real hard to adjust. Well, he stays away a lot now from the parties and the clubs. And he's thinking while he's jogging around, sure is glad he quit the hard drugs. Cause him and his kind get more endangered every day. And pretty soon the species will list up and fade away. Like the smoke from that torpedo, just up and fade away. Yeah, he's an old hippie and he don't know what to do. Should he hang on to the old? Should he grab on to the new? He's an old hippie, this new life is his day bus. He ain't trying to change nobody, he's just trying real hard to do. Yeah, he ain't trying to change nobody, he's just trying real hard to do.
I personally know a few people like that, and but it's really a graceful thing if they can overcome those tragedies and go on living. So I want to thank a lot of people that were responsible for helping us put this show on. I've been doing it 5 years now, and at the beginning it was extremely difficult because there was just a lot of stuff to get done, but today it's easy. Every time I went and asked someone to help, no problem. They said, of course we'll help, and I probably had a dozen phone calls anyway from people that, Dave, how can we help put this event on? So that's part of what we're trying to do, is make Veterans Day more visible and more memorable, and a ceremony that will go on for years. To keep this nation strong, we need a strong military, and to start by supporting the veterans. So my list goes on, but we have Jane Foy, who is in charge of all the food, Bill Foy, brother, Patty Foy Soliosi, Jack Stanley with the music, Bill King at the door, Blair Denman, our ever-present and best guy on the audiovisual, sitting over here. This is his 5th year, too. Jan Pierce, Brace Carpenter, Jeff sorry. Chris Nesson, who was able to have the chili donated again, the chili from Kettle Cuisine in Lynn. They donated all the chili last year and again this year. So if you wish, you can support them by buying their products. Also, I have Mike Swerko, I got Maggie Altman, and Bill King's daughter, Stacy. I think that completes the list. We have a wonderful tray of desserts. It may take a little while to consume it all, but we can't leave until it's all gone. Any chili left back there, Jane? Yeah. Okay, we have to-go cups. The cups that you had the chili in, they have tops you can put on if you want to take some home with you. So thanks again for coming, and I'll put Lee Greenwood on while you're readying and to go get your dessert. But thanks for coming, and let's do it again next year.